Who wants to know? That's what it is.
All right.
Yeah, then anytime I see it pops up, I'll just,
Gotcha. I hear an echo of myself. Oh, there it is. Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's good. That's good. Everybody's in. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out on a Tuesday night to hear all about Michael Maring's new presentation. Just for the people who are joining in on Zoom, if you have any questions, just throw them down in the chat. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll go through the chat questions. And then if you have any questions, then we'll take care of that all at the same time. All right. So without further ado, here's Michael Maring.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Oh, stop. I don't need applause. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, thanks for coming out on a really nice afternoon. I know it's be much easier to go walk around the lake, but you're here with me to talk about a cop from 100 years ago in a part of town that most of us don't even know exists. Again, I'm going to go through this presentation I put together. It's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal we're getting today. Because in order to understand a little bit about who we're talking about, we also have to understand about where he is living and where he's operating. So let me just go on up here, do the old screen sharing. Admit whoever is coming in. All right. So there we go. What's this? Okay. So we're talking about a guy by the name of Patrick Gould tonight, or Paddy, as he was lovingly called in the neighborhood of Shadyside, which is the neighborhood this whole story will take place tonight. Now, again, one thing I know from living in North Bergen and growing up in North Bergen is North Bergeners are very they have their minds made up of where certain neighborhoods are. People will argue constantly where the midtown uptown divide is, or where's the downtown divide, where is the racetrack, where is Woodcliff, where is Hudson Heights. There's always arguments over where these places start, begin, but Shadyside is kind of concrete in where it's located. And the reason is it's got natural borders. So let's go ahead here somewhere. All right. So here's where we're talking about. Now, again, this does not exist today. I think maybe like this house here exists, and that's the only one. This is a view of the Shadyside neighborhood from River Road in about 1942. Again, you will know more of this area today once we kind of look at a newer map, but this is the kind of Churchill Road area today, near Gorge Road. Now, again, let's talk about Shadyside here. It is one of the oldest neighborhoods in North Bergen. Okay, kind of predates the town. Shadyside is originally settled because it's a natural landing spot along the Hudson River. Okay, again, add to the fact that it's got 2 passable routes that will get you to the top of the Palisades. Today, you guys know them as Bulls Ferry Road and Gorge Road. Okay, back in the day, they were also called Bulls Ferry Road and Gorge Road, but we'll get into that down the road. Shadyside again, and the roads created there will fit perfectly with the people who are going to call the area home. So let's take a look here. Again, there's some great aerials that we'll look at. This one is coming from a 1950 aerial done of the entire state of New Jersey. Where we're kind of looking at, and sorry, people that are on at home, you can't see what I'm pointing at here. But you can kind of see here's Hudson County Park. There's the lake, okay? Which has always been rumored to be in the shape of New Jersey. It's not, but that's just a great rumor. Shadyside is this neighborhood right over in here, okay? It's this kind of tiny little enclave that's been down there. And most of the time, the only people that know it exists are people that live down there. Okay, it's kind of like this forgotten part of the town. Most people and most of the reports that are done on this area, people are like, oh, it's Edgewater. Oh, it's West New York, right? There's no real identity with it being part of North Bergen. So there was a gentleman who lived in Shadyside, a guy by the name of Michael Kruglinski. He was born and raised there. So he's kind of the unofficial historian of the Shadyside neighborhood. He wrote a great history about it. And in it, he writes this. The people there are no nonsense people. Okay. They're predominantly Irish, Polish immigrants in the community, which again is kind of uniquely different to the general ethnic makeup of North Bergen. At the time Shadyside is settled, North Bergen's predominantly like Dutch and German immigrants. Your Irish immigrants really are only found at this era in like your Jersey City area, right, into Union City. And Polish immigrants only really in Jersey City. So this is a unique kind of neighborhood in and of itself. They're going to name things, their landmarks, after natural inspirations. Okay. So Bull's Ferry Road, it's just named because the Bull family operated the ferry there. That's it. Right. Gorge Road gets its name because, well, it's follows the path of a natural gorge, right? They're just naming it after the geography. Shadyside itself actually comes because, well, it's the shade from the Palisades gets casted onto the neighborhood during the sunset. Okay, so everything's real simply named down there. Here's another great image. This is from the 20s. Okay, again, it's hard to imagine this because nowhere, if we went there today, we'd be able to be like, oh, I could see this house. This place is still here. That is going to be the Church of the Sacred Heart. Most North Bergen residents will know that because they moved into like the Hudson or right on the Hudson-Bergen County border over on, I believe it's Bar Place. I always get those streets confused over there. But again, they're originally down there. And the homes in this area are all wood construction, right? Real like simple stuff going on here. Again, here's another great image of Sacred Heart Church and school. This would have been the only school that the children had to use down there. If not, they'd have to climb up the Palisades to get to old U.S. Grant School, which would have been located in the park near the lake. Now, again, Shadyside flourishes in its early days. Again, being a natural port, it's got easy access for farmers to deliver their crops to New York and beyond. The area is going to grow to its maximum capacity. And again, it's a small area. Once you hit the cliffs, you have nowhere to go, right? The only other way to go is to the river. And then that's it too, right? So it's really tight. It's going to naturally flourish, right? Again, it's a riverside neighborhood. It's going to thrive as Hudson County develops and New York City develops. Again, the residents there are going to work in maritime industries, many different aspects of it. And again, it's another unique aspect where if you look at the history of North Bergen, most North Bergen people will work in like manufacturing. They'll work in transportation, right? They're not really working in, maritime industries, in seafood industries, which these folks are. Again, here's another great 1876 atlas that will showcase the area. And again, sorry, people online, you're not going to see this. All right, but Shadyside again is just really it's like 2 roads. That's it. Okay. And then everything else beyond here is your Edgewater area, right? Kind of where all the shopping centers and stuff are today. Another great atlas here, which shows kind of from 34. These are all proposed streets. So you have Church Street, which most of us again know as Churchill Road today. Okay. And then there's going to be Riverside. And then Hillside, which unfortunately never gets built. They never complete that road. But it would have been the way to connect Shadyside with the rest of North Bergen coming up Wall Street, right on the north end of the park over here. Now, I always like to mention him because he's got a school named after him, and most people don't know why. But Robert Fulton is going to basically give us the steam engine, right? And that's going to fit in really well in Shadyside because now we could cross by railroad, which again is a very old thing. And, most lifelong town residents will remember when River Road was just completely covered with railroad tracks, right? It's very different from today with the luxury buildings and shopping and hospitals. It was all railroads. That's all that was down there. Railroads and factories. So Shadyside's crisscrossed by railroads and ferries that are able to come in and out of there. There's going to be a major fishing operation that happens down there. And again, this is really weird because it's the Hudson River and nobody ever thinks to like fish and keep what they catch out of the Hudson River. But 100 years ago, yeah, there's a huge shad operation up and down the Hudson River, especially here in Shadyside. They would catch shad in the spring. Then all summer long, they'd get striped bass, tommy cods, eels, and Jersey blue claw crabs. Okay, right out of the Hudson River. Okay. Again, they're fresh caught, sold right there, or shipped off to some surrounding market. The other industry that just kind of naturally fits there because of the bluestone, the quarry industry is there. Stone crusher is established, and the Palisades are pushed back, right? So the Palisades we know, and a lot of you guys that come with me when we do the tour of Boulevard East, like we're standing like a good 200 feet back from where the Palisades originally are, right? The quarry industry really peels those back. And if you go home today and have an unfinished basement in this town, chances are if you go down there, the walls are made of bluestone. Okay, the bluestone in this area, it's everywhere. It's in every house in North Bergen and Hudson County, and it all mostly comes from our neck of the woods. And again, so that's what we got going on down there. So hopefully we got a good understanding, right, of where we are. And again, I like this image because this image is going to be like a really close to where we're talking about. So Shadyside is never really developed, right? Like when we talk about the town and like we look at like images of like Woodcliff, right? Manicured streets, right? Tree-lined streets, businesses all over the place, right? We look at the old pictures of this neighborhood, the racetrack. All the houses are beautifully done, brick homes, right? Shadyside is like more equivalent to just like shanty homes, shacks. Again, these are fishing people, right? So they're not there for luxury, they're there for work, okay? Which is going to kind of like play into who they are. Now, again, very little remains of Shadyside's past, right? The Hoboken and Hudson Turnpikes, they're now called River Road. Church Street is changed to Churchill Road. Okay, the proposed hillside place just never came to be. Okay, it is actually, you could go there. It's kind of cool. It's a flat piece of land, and you could just walk through it, and it's back to nature now. So pretty cool if you're there. Again, only true remaining markers are Riverside Place, and again, mostly in name, right? Most of that has been completely changed over. The homes that line Riverside Place, again, mostly original homes, however, just completely modified, right? Updated beyond belief with additions, right? New this, new that. So really it's just maybe like some foundations that are left. Now, here are some 1910 insurance maps. And again, we don't have a lot, but it does show us kind of where we're working today. Okay. We'll go to the other one, right? We're proposed Hillside Drive. And again, where we're talking today, right? So we can see there is a great difference. Most of the original homes are just like this little cluster right here at the bend of Riverside Drive or Place, excuse me. Okay. Now let's talk about the guy that really is going to make this story come to life, right? Let's get rid of this boring history stuff, right? So Patrick Gould is dubbed the king of Shadyside. Okay. It's a rough neighborhood. At the time we're talking about with Paddy Gould, there's 10 known saloons in that little area. So that's why I was so big with the maps. That little like 2-block radius, 10 bars. Okay. And they're not necessarily just for like the locals that live down there. You have the shipping industries there. So you have sailors on and in, going in and out of this neighborhood. Okay. This makes sense, right? Again, like we just said, we're close to the water, right? Now there's also, let's add in another layer here. There's no regulation at this point. right? Harry's closes at 2 o'clock. Okay. We know that. That's the law. Okay. In 1920, there is no law of what time bars close. There's no age of, drinking age. You could be like 14 years old and go in a bar if you want, right? If your money's green, they're going to take it. And if there's nobody to enforce the law there, so be it. Enter Patrolman Paddy Gould. He is going to be the only police officer in this part of town. He's by himself, okay? Now, he is not from Shadyside originally. He immigrates to Shadyside as a child from Limerick, Ireland in the 1860s. Much like many of the Irish immigrants, they are coming during the American Civil War, right? But also going through the tail end of the famine that hits the island of Ireland, okay? Prior to becoming a North Bergen police, he is going to serve as a chanceman, okay? The North Bergen Police Department isn't founded until 1907 as an official police department. Prior to that, it's kind of just guys that are willing to beat people up, right, for breaking the law. So Paddy's going to be one of those guys. Gould becomes an official officer in the area in 1919 when Prohibition is enacted, okay? Gould monitors Shadyside for the entire 13-year run of Prohibition completely by himself. He's the lone lawman along the river, and his whole job is to make sure there's no alcohol in this part of town. Now, it seems like an impossible task. Again, by the time we get to like Prohibition, we know that there's 7 well-known speakeasies still in operation. 3 bars shut down. 7 just ignore the law and stay open. One of which is on a barge. So when the county police come in, they just unclip it and push it out into the Hudson River. Can't get in trouble now. All right. So here's how Gould's jobs or his day went. He walked his beat during the afternoon and the evenings. Okay. The North Bergen Police Department held him in the highest regards. This is a quote from the chief of police. He says, "This guy's all alone in that remote, crowded speakeasy place with mean sailors and barge people." Okay. Again, we can see Shadyside. It's kind of like a rough part of town, right? Not going to be easily tamed. Gould has one way to get in touch with the North Bergen Police Department. He's got to walk down River Road to a call box. And that's the only way he can get in touch with anybody. Again, the time that backup would have taken to get there would be unthinkable today, right? Nobody would accept it. Again, regardless, during his patrol, Gould was known to enter the speakeasies and kind of hang out and enjoy a pipe. He never drank on duty. Again, off duty, he might have had a drink or two, okay? Now, this is the one reason I love like doing the history in this town, because you can always tell when someone's from North Bergen by the way they react to stuff, right? In 1931, there is a massive raid on Shadyside, okay? And it's led by Special Agent Abe Weinberger, working with the Bergen County Sheriff's Department. So they raid a bunch of bars in Shadyside, 1931. However, he is 6 blocks south of the Bergen County border. He's not supposed to be here. They arrest Shadyside resident Angela Morio. Now, Morio argued he can't be arrested because he's in Hudson County and you're Bergen County agents. You have no jurisdiction here. So Paddy Gould sees what's going on and he goes over. And now these are the official transcripts from Weinberg's case. Gould says, "And what's this?" And Weinberg says, "It's a raid." Gould says, "Well, where are you from?" Weinberg says, "Hackensack." And this is in the notes, right? In like parentheses or quotes, it says, "Starts to walk away, stops." And Paddy Gould turns around and goes, "This is Hudson County," and keeps walking. right? So again, like there is, even though he's like the lawman of the area, he's almost got like this disregard for like the actual law beyond what he does, right? Kragunski describes another incident where Gould has to take on this disorderly speakeasy patron. He says Paddy almost jumped off his feet to beat the giant on the back with his nightstick. Each lick made a boom now noise on the giant's thoracic cavity. Wow, how's that for maintaining law and order? Okay. Also, people don't write like that anymore. I love that. Again, it's because of Gould's actions during Prohibition, he gets dubbed the chief of Shadyside, right? He's almost his own police department all into himself. He made numerous arrests, he issued countless fines, and he kept law and order in Shadyside throughout Prohibition, again, completely on his own. Now, when Prohibition ends in 33, the North Bergen police kind of see the Shadyside's population and its crime rate start to come down. But like they're like, we need somebody up there. So let's leave Paddy on the job. Okay. He will unfortunately pass away 3 years later. At the age of 73, excuse me. He's on patrol and has a slip and fall. Right. But again, he's the only cop in this area, and he's on patrol at 73 years old. Right. His funeral is going to be attended by police officers from North Bergen and Edgewater, town representatives from North Bergen, from Fairview, from Edgewater, and Cliffside. The funeral procession is made up of nearly 100 officers, and Paddy can be found today over in Madonna Cemetery in Fort Lee. Now, Shadyside today, right? Roads have changed. Residents, the original residents, their families, they've all moved on. The bars, the piers, the harbor, it's all gone. We got new road names, new residents, new developments, all taken over, but Shadyside still endures. All right. There's new life being added, restaurants, luxury homes, a dispensary. All right. It seems to all be coming the beginning of this new Shadyside neighborhood. Again, luxury Churchills over there on Churchill Road continue the legacy of residents enjoying the seclusion and the shade of the Palisades, along with the rest of the developments over on Riverside Place. Okay, again, the area is still seen by most North Bergen residents as really not belonging to the township, right? Again, most people assume it's just part of Edgewater. Likewise, some residents there also still feel disconnected from the town itself. Yet again, it's got one of the richest histories in North Bergen, right? With its continued evolution, the neighborhood will continue to have a life of its own, adding new chapters to its history. Again, it's come a long way since the first settlers showed up 200 years ago, and it's exciting to see what Shadyside's future holds. All right, that is what I've got for you guys tonight. I'll gladly take on some questions if we have any about anything, I guess.
Where did the sailors stay? Were they on the ships or?
So yeah, there's no record of like a hotel there. So most of those guys probably just stayed on board, hopped off on the docks that were down there, and then just in and out as they needed to. Anything else, guys? Sure.
Quarry, you say a quarry?
Quarry, yeah.
Is that like embedded into the?
No, so there would have been like an individual like stone crushing machine, and then they would have used dynamite to blast away, take the bigger portions, and then crush them down into smaller, more manageable pieces.
And where did they get, was it like, because that's what they're doing now, build all those apartments down on River Road.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. Right, it's the same exact rock they're blasting away, yeah. What they would have had was like an established kind of engine with the crusher, and you would add dynamite, blow away, and you'd have a crane pick up what they have and move it over, crush it down, load it up, and then move it to where it's got to go.
When did they finally shut those quarries down?
So the quarries kind of, there's no like official open and close date. Like sometimes it opens, then it shuts down for a while. You get a new owner that takes it over. The last time we see any real like quarrying for commercial use in North Bergen's like into like on River Road anyways, is like into the early 50s. But quarrying will go on into like the 70s in this town, like over on the other side of town where Home Depot and Lowe's is. That's the old Granton quarry where they would quarry in there up until like 1974, I think is the last time they do it.
So it was that.
Yeah, it's there for a while. Would-
My house was 1956 and when they did the sidewalks and the cement work. It was
Right.
all embedded with the bluestone.
Oh yeah. It's everywhere in this
Yeah.
town. On the hills, it's in everybody's basement. Up here, it's in everybody's basement. Really, the only parts of town that you don't get a lot of bluestone is once you get to like the 40s and the 30s. Once you get lower in town, there's nothing down. It's just dirt under their houses.
Was it quarried like on Boulevard East? Let's say like going up to like, as you're going all along the stretch there, like,
Sure.
it hugs it and it's a drop.
Oh yeah,
Is that all quarried?
that is all quarried out. All of that.
Was Boulevard East already established and they just kept on bringing it like
No.
closer to the road? You know what I'm
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Boulevard East doesn't really become a road until like 1922, right? There's what they called the Boulevard Loop, right? Which was like, when you come through the park, you take Kennedy Boulevard, like you come up by Walgreens and by White Castle, you get into the park. That was called the Loop. So you used to be able to take that, and then it kind of just stopped being a road and started being more just like a dirt path. But then once they developed, 74th Street, 75th Street, 76, all those parts by Boulevard East, they were like, okay, we need like a real road. So like, that's what it's going to be. We're going to make a road, and that's the end of the quarrying. Because once people moved in there, they were like, we don't want to hear that. Like, we don't want to deal with that. Especially when you look at the history of that neighborhood, that's like the big money that moves into this area, which, ironically, it's still big money over there, right? But that's like the big wealthy folks of the 20s and 30s are moving there, and they're like, I don't want to hear quarrying. It's not until like World War II comes along that they're like, no, we need to quarry here now. Like, and nobody's going to say no during World War II. Like, if you said no, they'd be like, well, what are you, like Hitler? Like, what I mean? And you can't say no.
What did they use stone for?
Some of it was for ballast for ships. A lot of it was for other like WPA projects just to put men back to work. So a lot of it's just like most of the walls on Boulevard East are built during right before the war and during the war, just to give like young guys and old guys here like jobs. Because again, most of the industries in this area during the war were more targeted towards women. Uniform making, insignia patch making, parachutes. We didn't have a big military, like we didn't build tanks and stuff here. That was out more in the Midwest. This was more the embroidery stuff that they were doing here.
So they build embroidery.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
During World War.
Oh yeah. Every woman here went to work in this county, in one facet or another, doing something for the war. And then again, you had most men that were left here. They said, well, what do we do? And they worked in quarries or they worked in transportation. Most of them worked loading ships down on the river.
You know what kind of manufacturing was happening in the old port plant that we had?
And I'm sorry?
The port plant, what kind of vehicle was being manufactured?
No, that I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I'm assuming they had to do something. I don't know if it had anything to do with the like tanks building. I know Ford made mostly airplanes during World War II, so it could have been components there. Chances are it might have been just used as like a launching spot for stuff to get put on boats. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. It's a great question though.
The bluestone.
Sure.
That they have in the park, all those, was that built?
Yeah,
in
it's-
World War II?
Um,
The walls and stuff? the
so
bluestone
along
walls?
Boulevard East, yeah. But like those towers that everybody sees on Boulevard, those are original. Those were built in like 1918. when they built the park. Yeah.
Was way back.
Yeah, all the ones on, like, as you're on Bergen Line Avenue and it's like the fence and then the
Yeah.
fence block, those are all original from 1918. Yeah, so those have been there a while. It's just the actual wall on Boulevard East. No. And if you ever want to see, this is like a really interesting kind of thing. If you're ever in West New York, it's really weird. On Broadway in West New York at about 59th Street, I guess. There's like this little tiny like shack made of bluestone. That dates back to like 1840. And that was supposed to be a gatehouse to some massive quarrying business that they were doing in West New York. Where they were supposed to be like some mansion that was built so the owner could oversee the production of the rock. And then it just never came to be, but that house is still sitting there. It's Park Ave. Sorry, it's not Broadway. It's Park Ave. Yeah. Yeah. That's super old, that house. Someone lives there. Yeah. Yeah. It's a quarter of the size of this room. It's small.
Right next to the garage.
Yeah, it was meant to be an office, really, an office / gatehouse. But now it's a home, which is a weird, like, holdout to like the old quarrying industry that used to be here. Let me see. I have a question. 2 questions here. No, Dave, unfortunately, there is no images of Paddy that we know of. And then Christine, to answer your question, kid there went to Grant School, which is in Hudson County Park. Which again, long gone, taken down in the 50s. It would have been at the north side of the lake. So on Boulevard East. I'm trying to think. If you go where the baseball field is, the small one in the island, cross the street, walk maybe about 100 yards, and it's right there by the lake. The school itself was really interesting, mainly because everything else up there wasn't there. And what was there, where all the apartments are, where like Woodcliff Gardens and all that stuff is, was a movie studio. So like kids would go to school there, and then like kids would cut school and try to be extras in the movies, right? Or rumors would start that some big celebrity was coming, and they'd cut school and they'd hide in the movie studio and then wait for this person to show up. In fact, the one movie, the big claim to fame of the movie studio there, which was Ideal Films, was this movie called The Fall of the Romanovs. And it's kind of like this legendary film because it was destroyed. And the theory is there's no copies of it anywhere in the world at this point. But what we know is they rebuilt an entire Russian village in Hudson County Park and used the kids as extras in the movie. There's even a rumor, there's one article that says like even like some teachers were used. And then that caused like a big problem. But the school itself would have been up in the park. And really cool thing you could do is if you ever go down Wall Street, because those kids would have had to walk up Wall Street to get to school. Now, if you're not familiar where Wall Street is, it's over by like the senior citizen building that's back there, by that little baseball field. And it's like a straight drop down Wall Street. And when you get to the bottom, there's a couple of streets. The one street, Albert Street, connects to Churchill Road through an old walking path, which is the path these kids would have used to walk up the school to get to school every day, which is I think it's pretty cool. It's a small little path. You walk right down it, and all of a sudden you're on River Road. Go down it. Don't go up it. Going up, it's a nightmare. But yeah. That's what I got.
My dad said they used to, this was like in the 50s, he said, like with the Boy Scouts, they used to go camping. I don't know if they'd stay overnight, but he said where the football field is, because it was all wooded area, in that area.
Oh, in the park.
Yeah, in the park. They used to go there.
Yeah,
From Union City, they would come up.
Yes.
Go.
The Boy Scouts did a ton of stuff in Hudson County Park. They had I was gonna say they had the big jamboree there in the late 60s, early 70s, I think that was. Mid 60s. There's also the tricentennial tree, which is somewhere in the park. The Boy Scouts planted a tree, put a plaque on it, and the tree has now eaten the plaque. So they're not really sure where the tree is now, which is kind of cool, I think. So there's like a part in the park where they're really nervous about cutting trees down, because of the plaque is in one of them. But yeah, the Boy Scouts used to do a ton of stuff up in the park. Probably way more than they're doing now. But yeah, definitely was. Different world. All right.
Quite a few people at his funeral for the time.
Yeah.
Police officers, that was a lot. I mean,
That's a lot of people, yeah. It's worth noting his brother is also a police officer in Edgewater. Right? So like they are like law enforcement like through and through. And again, I think a lot of people show up more because of the reputation that he has and like kind of the idea that like this guy was in charge in the worst part of town with the worst type of people, trying to stop them from doing the worst type of thing. Again, when we talk about like prohibition in this town, anyways, kind of was like laughed at, considering like there was a guy from this town who controlled the flow of alcohol, like in and out of like Hudson County. George Fuso, who he's a whole other story, but he was in charge of all the alcohol coming in and out of the county, basically through brute force. He took over. He was a gangster, and you know, was that? No, nothing with everything. He was on had to go through Hague for everything. But you know, he's running booze here, and most of the cops in town kind of look the other way. And with George Fuso, and I'm assuming Paddy Gould was the same way. It's just he was dealing with, you know, barge people, as they were called, where you know the rest of the cops were just dealing with neighborhood folk, you know, people they knew from a daily basis.
When did the Hudson become unfishable? I'm not from here, so.
Okay. It's a great question. I mean, I would probably say sometime in the 60s, maybe into the 70s. Yeah, just over pollution. Yeah, it wasn't overfishing or anything like that. It was just too much pollutants going in and out of the water. I mean, I always heard people say like, oh, like, you know, it was fine up here, you know, it was fine in Fort Lee. Like, it was, you know, the further you get away from like, you know, Jersey City and Weehawken, like where all the real industry is on the water. But then people forget like Ford had a factory over here. You know, Alcoa Tin Factory was in Edgewater, right? Like there's enough stuff that was in this part of the river that would have, you know, not made you really want to, you know, eat anything out of there. So I would say if you were still eating out of the Hudson, it was probably like eating at your own risk. Like, you know, no restaurant was like, today we have fresh cod right out of the Hudson. Like, nobody was saying that. But they keep saying it's the cleanest it's been in 100 years. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody's been risky enough to eat something out of the Hudson lately. Yeah, I mean, I was always told if I fall in, I'll come out with another arm. That's true. Yeah, they used to eat oysters right out of the Hudson, right? I mean, they used to eat oyster and fish right out of the Hackensack River as well, too, which is that sounds horrifying. It sounds terrible. But again, I don't think anybody's really fishing there since probably the 70s, maybe really risky in the 80s. But who knows? Maybe it'll turn around someday.
There were questions
Oh.
in the chat if you would want to pop it up.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So let me see here. Do I know if the town has any plans to mark these locations? No, I think I'm the marker. So I think that's my job. And then people fish, yeah, down in Liberty State Park, right? You always catch people fishing down there. Again, I don't know if I would eat anything out of near Liberty State Park. That's just me. Not a risk taker, I guess. All right. That's all I got, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me online. And hope to see everybody at the next one in April, which don't ask, I don't know what it is yet.
On the film industry in the park?
No. I never did, no. I'm not sure if I can, because I don't know if I have enough information to fill